Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Cooking with Unity. I'm your host, Maximilian Moreau, and with me is my tech, Philip Wilson.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
The audiences are doing great
Oh.
through
The magic
internet telepathy, through the mind modem, right there.
Hello, world.
Hello, world. All right, he's already saying it.
I had to say it once.
Yeah, you'll say it more than once, I'm sure, because I'm not going to change it just yet. So, last episode, we were working on this pinball machine, and we got the basic, the game logic in there, so now we can actually play a round of pinball. It's a little bit easy right now. There's still a few little physics bugs. We're not going to worry too much about that. Today, that was an interesting one. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of an art pass on the game, and just putting in some 3D models, showing how that process goes, just because I don't usually do that on the show. I'm not going to actually be showing you how to make these models. I'm going to be showing you the Unity portion of things. I'm going to try and get a video together, so that some sort of modeling video together to show you how to do this stuff. But my problem is I focus on Unity here, and Unity's not exactly a modeling package, and I don't know Blender, and all the rest of them are pay projects, so we'll see what we actually do with that. But we've got some models to work with. So what I'm going to start with first is just dragging those models in. So we've got these pinball models. I'm just going to drag this whole folder in. What this contains is a bunch of files. Let me actually show you what the files look like here. So these are OBJ files, which is a pretty common 3D file format. Almost any 3D program can export to OBJ format, and it retains modeling and texture information. This one's just models. We don't have any textures or anything for these things, but it should make things look a little bit better. I'm mostly interested in just showing the import path of this, showing some Unity best practices here, and showing how collision works with complex meshes, because we're going to be probably using flippers that have their own mesh objects and stuff. So
That seems like a good idea to me.
what we've got here, so first off, when you import models, I'm just going to rename this just the models. When you import models, you'll notice that they look kind of like prefabs, and they kind of act like prefabs. Like if I drag this flipper into the scene and look at it, it's a really big flipper, oh my god. We have this flipper thing, and it's gigantic, and we'll fix that in a second. But you notice I just instantiated that just like we could instantiate any of these prefabs by dragging it into the scene. Now, the thing is, you never, ever, ever, ever want to instantiate a prefab that has this little file icon on it. And this is one of those Unity gotchas / best practices, and I'm sorry I can't give a really specific reason as to why not, but basically, under certain scenarios, if you say take this thing and treat it like a prefab, and we add some scripts to it, and we add some game components to it, and we instantiate some of them in our levels, and we do this type of thing, if you change this actual file, like the OBJ file, like say your artist comes in and changes a polygon or spruces it up or adds a texture map or who knows what, there's the possibility that it will destroy all the customization you have done to this object. Absolutely. It's really bad. And so what we want to do is we want to turn these into real prefabs, and then we can be safe from that. And actually, it will still update from the model when the prefab when the model changes, and it won't mess everything up. And it's really simple how to do this. It's just not very obvious. So if you go into prefabs, we're just going to create a new prefab, and we have this blank prefab, and I'm just going to keep it called new prefab here. And this is going to look a little strange. We're going to just take one of these objects. We're going to start with the flipper, and we're going to throw it into the new prefab, and it just becomes it. Like, it didn't actually become a subset of it. This is actually exactly this flipper, but it's now doesn't have that little file icon. It is now a real, normal prefab. So let's rename this to flipper. Oops, I don't want to call it flipper because this is already called flipper. So let's call this
New flipper.
yeah, fancy flipper.
Oh, I like that.
That's our fancy flipper, and so you want to do this for any ones that you're going to be using in the game as a prefab. So we've got this flipper collider. This is actually the same as the flipper. I'm going to just instantiate just to show you what it looks like. Again, you don't want to actually do this. This is a low poly version of it that doesn't have the little detail on it. And the reason we have this is going to be used as our collision mesh. Collision meshes have to be under 255 polygons Otherwise, Unity will reject them. And so the flipper that we had there was actually over, and this one is an example of what you would want it to look like for the geometry. You can see, I'm going to bring both of them in real quick. You can see that they look very similar, but one is as basic as it gets, doesn't have any beveled edges, doesn't have extra polygons where it doesn't need them, is split less. Even here you can see there's there's more lines on the center here, and there's less lines on this one. But it conveys the shape well enough that it will work for the collision, and it definitely is under 255 polygons now. So let me just get rid of both of these in the scene again. So so we got that. Let's do let's see what else we got here. So we got pinball arena floor. This we don't really need. I'm gonna actually skip that one. Because we could just use a flat floor for that. Arena walls, we're going to use this one. This is it's flipped around the wrong direction, but this gives us a little bit more of a playfield look to it and a little bit more of a curve going for our thing. And then we have the low poly version of the pinball edge, which is used for our collision geometry. So, although I think this one might actually qualify. I could be wrong, though, because that's kind of looking ratty up at the top there. I don't know. We'll check it out. So, one of the things we have to fix right off the bat is our flippers are too big. So let me just finish creating these. I'm going to do another prefab for the arena walls here. Create prefab arena. Actually, I think I can just call it new prefab. I think the only reason it didn't rename it automatically last time is because... No, it just doesn't rename it. There goes that theory. Walls. I'm just going to call it walls. Alright, and so when we drag our fancy flipper in here, it's gigantic. And we don't want it to be gigantic. So, how do we fix that? Well, we could just adjust the scale here, and that's valid. But probably the better thing to start with, especially if you have a big discrepancy in the size here, like we do here. Whoops, I want to delete the whole thing, not just the sub-object. You can go into the models here for the flipper, and we can change some of the things here. So scale factor is what we've got here. So let's bring the scale factor down by a factor 10 and see what happens real quick. As a matter of fact, I'm going to undo that or revert that. We're going to instantiate the better flipper. Wait, that's not better flipper. Sorry, fancy flipper. There's a difference. There's a difference. So we're just going to import that. We're going to look at the flipper here. We're going to change this to 0.1, and we're going to hit apply. And there we have a flipper that's much more close to our actual game scale here. And I'd say that's actually probably appropriate to work with at this point. Let's compare it to our existing flippers. Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with that scale. Though I may actually stretch it out a little bit vertically. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's make it slightly larger. Apply. That's too large.
What about 1.5?
Yeah. 1.5. Apply. I didn't mean to hit play. That's pretty good. Still a little bit big. 1.25.
That looks good.
All right, let's go with that 1.25. So we have a flipper in there now. Let's start with the flipper. So we've got one. I'm gonna place it. Where am I gonna place this? Right where it is seems really close, actually.
Yeah, it might need to be moved up a little bit.
Yeah, like let's float it just slightly.
Yeah, like that.
Let's go 0.2. And let's get rid of our fancy, or wait, our better flipper. What are these
fancy
things called?
Flipper.
No, we want the fancy flipper. We want flipper right. There we go. Let's look at this one. Let's, is there a way to copy all components? No. That'd be too easy. So we got our fancy flipper. What we need? We need a collider. We need the hinge joint to be set up, and we need apply force and offset. I guess we'll just individually copy these things out. So the collider we're going to be doing a little differently, so I'm not going to copy that just yet. Let's grab the rigid body. So I'm going to copy component on the rigid body, and we're going to paste it on fancy flipper. Paste component as new, and then we're going to look at apply force and offset. We're going to copy component, and then we're going to paste as new. And then we need our collider, which we're going to add a mesh collider, and in the mesh we're going to set it to our low poly. So it's just, unfortunately, it uses whatever names in the exported object, so it's all object 1 here. So, but this is the one we want. This is the low poly version of our flipper, so we're going to put that in there. Now you'll notice that it's too big here because we didn't change the scale of the import for the flipper collider. So let's change that right now. Let's change this to 0.125 so it matches. And so now if we go back into our, well, if we hit apply, and then go back into our fancy flipper, we should see that the mesh collider isn't taking up more room than it should be. So yeah, you can see the green of the mesh collider's there. So finally, let's just get rid of flipper right. I'm just going to just turn it off for right now, and then hit play and see what happens. And something went wrong.
Why did it disappear?
I don't know. Let's find out where it actually is. That's strange.
A little bit.
Huh. What does that mean?
In this case, your guess is as good as mine.
Oh, whoops, I was looking at the wrong flipper, so fancy flipper. Bam. Let's see where it actually is. It is somewhere, it's moving at a high velocity, somewhere into the universe. A lot into the Z.
Now, why
Alright,
is it
so
moving into the Z?
whatever we copied over evidently had some stuff that we don't actually want. Here, let's look at flipper right. Use gravity as schematic. Was there anything else? Oh, hinge joint. We missed this part. That's really important, actually.
Oh,
so let's
yeah.
copy that component, put this into the fancy flipper, and hit play one more time. There we go. Better. It's at least in place, kind of. Still obviously not working perfectly.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. It's getting better. So let's go back to our fancy flipper again and see what we're looking at. So let's look at the hinge joint. If we click on this guy, the hinge joint should be pointing. See, you can see it barely poking out of the geometry there, but we want it poking out and up. And this one is poking the wrong direction. So I think it's because the orientation of this object is slightly different than that one for whatever reason.
That's something that you have to take into account when importing models, typically.
So if we change the axis here to 0 and 1, there we go. That fixed it. So now we have it pointing in the right direction. So let's see if we hit play. And it's working. It's a little wobbly, though. It might have actually... Now, it was wobbly before, so this might just be exacerbating an existing problem. But it does work. That's a good sign that it's at least working. And we'll try and fix the wobble in a moment here.
Looks like it's actually moving better than the other one used to, though.
Yeah.
When it actually smacks. Is it slightly tilting when it's... No. No, it's just... I wonder why it's wobbling.
Pass thing. No, failed. One-way door works.
You know what else is kind of cool?
What?
That you have these flipper prefabs. And start adding them like to the side so you get multiple flippers on one side.
Yeah, yeah, you can just copy and paste these. If you wanted to make a multi-tier board real easily, you can just hit duplicate and just drag it in, and it will respond to the same button as the other one did and work just the same. So,
pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, that's the fun of making games, is once you've made one of something, you can have any number of that
them as
thing,
you want.
so long as that thing's not thinking too much.
That is true.
Let's have a million of these things that are also checking to see if the other million things are doing something, and then all of a sudden it starts sucking really bad. So I'm going to delete the extra one there. Why is it wobbling?
Should try to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off use gravity and just see if that changes anything for whatever reason. No, that didn't really change anything. So one of the things that you should, a general best practice is, if you can afford to use convex on here, you probably should. Honestly, this model is almost not convex, but evidently it almost is convex itself, but evidently it's not quite, because when we click it, you see a slight change in the geometry here. Basically, this just ensures that convex collisions are easier for an engine to handle for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
And so the collision on concave objects is not always 100% guaranteed. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of games I've seen where if they have really fast collision, you'll deal with a lot of problems if you're using meshes that are complex that have concave geometry. And concave just means that it's not bulbous, really. It just means that no point is inside of another set of points within the object. That didn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, it did.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Just basically, if there's like a gap or something like that, it's harder for it to calculate the collision.
Yes.
That's layman's terms.
So, we're applying a force to this thing.
Well, if we knock down the
Maybe
force,
we're applying the force in the wrong direction, too.
that is possible. Especially since now that the...
Yeah. It's like the force direction... Except for the fact that I think we're applying it in the affine direction. Let's look real quick. Force direction not normalized. So yeah, this is just always pointing forward, so that one should work. Though I guess we could be more specific, that might make it less wobbly. Spring damper target position. I wonder what this means. See if we put damper up to like 70, what that actually even does, if anything. Well, it didn't solve our problem. I'm going to put it back to 0. Oh, I don't have to use spring. I don't even know what that means. Let's try it one more time with that checked, just for fun. Oh, it's dampering things, definitely. It's still wobbling to all heck. Alright, let's see what we're doing here. So, we're doing update. We're adding a force. And we're adding a force. Let's see what happens if we change this fixed update. As we're doing physics stuff, we probably should do it that way anyway, although I would expect it to cache the updates appropriately. Though, that fixed our problem, so
Well,
obviously
we'll see.
not.
Wow.
So what I had changed here was we went into there, and instead of doing update, we did fixed update, and now it's all happy.
That's awesome.
That looks a lot better.
Yeah, it looks so much better.
Looks way better.
It's kind of shocking how
Yeah.
much that fixed update actually changed things.
Yeah. All right. Well, I like this flipper, so let's prefab it. We're going to apply this to our prefab, and I'm gonna just in the scene move it up. Oh, well, that's the reason it doesn't look like it lines up very well. Let's extend this one a little bit, or rotate it or something. Let's extend it. And we don't want it to cut into the thing there, so I'm going to move it too, because when we resize, it resizes from center. Okay, maybe I didn't have as much room to work with as I thought. And then let's actually move it down a little bit. If we change to global, we can do this nice direct move. I just am trying to get those corners lined up. Yeah, that's looking good. I'm going to move this in just ever so slightly. I'm going to see if it still works.
I bet it will.
Yeah, and that looks more in line now. All right. So now we have this. I'm going to apply again, even though that really doesn't apply. That really doesn't matter for the prefab. And we're going to just duplicate it. We're going to delete this one.
Hide it or delete it.
Undo, paste, flipper left. Let's hide it.
Might as well.
We might want the position information or something. So what do we use for the rotation, speaking of which? Just 90 on the Z. Let's see if that works on here. 90 on the Z. Nope. We have to do it on something else because this is oriented differently.
It would be 90Y. Or 180Y.
Alright.
Well, there's no way that ball's going to drain.
Oh, it'll drain as long as you're not flipping both flippers. But I mean, like, there's still challenge to this pinball game, even if you make a pinball game where this is smaller than the ball, it'll still be challenging. You won't have a down the middle problem as much because you can always flip it from either side. But actually,
well, let's start.
What's the pinball game on iOS? Not Zen Pinball. There's a pinball series on iOS.
Pinball Arcade.
No, it's not Pinball Arcade. It's not the one that's based on the real boards. It's like their own boards. Their game actually has a lot different logic in it. And it's not very pinball-like, and it's actually a lot easier than normal pinball, and that's why it sells.
Interesting.
Because typically people... I mean, like, I'm not saying people aren't looking for a challenge when they're playing pinball, but when you're playing it casually, you kind of don't want the game to just drain the ball constantly, so they keep the space really, really tight on theirs. So now we have flippers. They look a little bit better. That left one still seems like they're a little bit off kilter. It's probably because of the way I'm applying the force. I'm actually going to try turning off the use gravity on these one more time, just to see if that affects it now. I just don't like that. It looks like it's just a little bit off axis. And
we should look at it from above.
I think this is the angle I want to look at it from. Let me peel this off and put it somewhere. Here, just make a window. No. Okay. Why is this being mean to me?
Oh, there you go.
Alright, so now we hit the... Oh.
It's not really a window? Oh, it was all in the editor, wasn't it?
No, it's a real window.
What's it doing?
I hate fighting interfaces. Let's just put this thing back in here somewhere. I'm just going to split screen it with the game scene here. Bam. Something like that. So now if we hit the flip, yeah, they're kind of angling up a little bit.
Just slightly, yeah.
It's like a stress on that. I have no idea how to do their calculation for the other stuff. I'm going to leave it for right now. Not a major deal. So both of these unfortunately respond to the same button right now, so let's fix that real quick. We're going to go back to our fancy flipper and we're going to actually rename these now. So this is fancy flipper left, fancy flipper right.
Fancy.
Yes. And the left one we want to use control for the hit, which is fire 1. We hit play, and there we go.
There you go.
So,
now, does the ball drain currently?
Yeah, the ball should.
Yeah, it does look like it because they're far enough apart when they're down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kind of curious if the ball will ever get down there even.
It will. Or not. Maybe it'll get stuck right there. No, it's coming.
No,
come on.
No.
All right, we may have to add board shake.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh.
Yeah, it drained. All right.
Good.
So let's look at the outside of our arena now and replace that with the art that we have. So I'm going to grab our walls prefab. And we're going to look at how big it is compared to our arena, and then resize it a little bit. So let's look at, let's first rotate it kind of into position. I'm going to just grab this. And is it command? I think I just hold command. Yeah, there we go.
That's handy.
Yeah, and if you're on Windows, it's control.
Except it's not perfect. It didn't do it perfectly at 180.
It did? Oh, well, that's...
179.
I was actually... So, in my spare time, I read stupid things, and one of the stupid things I read was how floating point actually works, and I think I actually know what they're doing wrong in their floating point conversion. They're doing the rounding wrong.
That's funny.
So, oh well. 180, just so that doesn't drive me insane.
Yeah, it would drive me insane.
And we're going to look at our arena walls, and we're going to bring the size down 0.5. Let's see how that looks. That's closer. Let's try and get this kind of in our playfield area. It's actually really close. Let's bring it a little bit bigger. This is going to make our arena a little bit wider. Not going to be a big deal.
No, it's easy enough to...
And we can also stretch it out if we need to once we get the scale close. You really want to get this just as close as possible. So, like, optimally, you don't want to do any scaling. And optimally, if you're working close with your artist should have everything calibrated to your scale anyway so that everything works. In this case, I didn't do a lot of communication with my artist on the actual scale. So, but you can get around that just by tweaking and checking.
That is smaller.
That's too small. 4, 5. Let's try that. All right. I like that. That's going to stay. That's good. All right. So let's look at what we got here. Let's move this into a slightly different vertical position here. Something like that.
We're going to need to move the top glass as well.
Yeah, we'll figure that in a second.
Oh.
Well, we don't need to move the top glass, actually.
What if that was the problem with the flippers? I doubt it, though.
No, you'd think that would put them in place more than anything else. It's probably actually masking a further problem. So I'm going to just drop this little block here out of... I'm going to just turn it off just so we don't mess anything up too bad. And here, let's turn this one off. Let's move this. Let's make the playfield board a little bit wider.
That's a little too much wider, huh?
Yeah. Maybe we will bring in the arena floor just so that it matches nicely
I think so.
on the edges. Let's try it. So I'm going to create a new prefab. Floor. Throw this on here. We're going to use it. This should be the same scale, so I'm going to do 0.55 here. And then we're going to instantiate the floor. And I'm just going to take this thing, copy component, and then paste component values.
Oh, wow.
And then we can get rid of this plane, delete this. And,
Neato.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm going to move this up so that it matches at least to the, there we go. Alright, let's move this over.
Don't forget to move the collision exploder.
Collision
thingy.
exploder thingy? What? What's
Thing
the
that launches the ball.
I'm going to.
That thingy.
Alright, so do that. Since this thing has a curve anyway, I'm just going to get rid of our little curve that we had added here. We don't need this extra geometry. Breaking eggs to make omelets. Alright. Gonna extend this piece again. Whoops. So this time I'm gonna use the local coordinate so I can slide it along that axis, and then we're gonna just stretch it out. And we're gonna move it again. And stretch it a little bit more. And same with this one, we're gonna stretch it out, move it.
Good deal.
So we're going to need to change the ball spawner and the plunger. And the plunger one way should be moved into a proper position. That looks good. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Especially since you can't really see it.
Yeah. I can't see it from... Oh yeah, because we got rid of the renderer on it entirely.
Yep.
So, so where are we looking at? So plunger back, that didn't do anything special, right? Plunger one way, that's the one way. Plunger track, plunger trigger. So this is the actual area that we have for applying force to the ball. So we're going to make this go in here.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, hopefully the ball can actually fit down this track. We're going to find
We'll
out.
see.
And where's the ball spawn position? There it is. We just throw this in about there. And hit play. And we're getting the ball falling through the ground. So that's because we don't have a collider on this thing. As this is a floor, we're going to use a cube collider. Mesh, physics, box collider. And if I'm not mistaken, it should choose... Nope, it chooses bad default values for that. So let's make it big enough.
Really? What? Did it really?
Yeah, it made really poor collision properties there.
Seems odd.
And I'm going to keep that at 1.
Couldn't you theoretically just use a plane collider as well, or is that more expensive?
There's no such thing as a plane collider.
Oh, they just use a box.
They use a box collider. Planes actually use mesh collision.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that's the reason that we were able to do that one-way trick on the thingy. So
On the thingy. Think you can do a grind thing.
Oh, that's really funny. So what happened there is we just lost all our balls. And I don't think our balls are actually falling through the world. If we do this, we'll also note that we won't lose the balls.
Oh, they're falling out backwards.
Okay, so we need a collider on the walls too. So let's look at that. Walls. We're going to add... this one's going to need a mesh collider. So physics, mesh collider.
Are we going to try it without
and this
doing
one,
the secondary?
We can't set to convex. If we set this to convex, it will cause all sorts of wonderful little issues because it'll actually fill in the whole arena.
Yeah.
So we're just going to leave that alone, and we're going to actually give it the mesh here. So
I think you should try it as it is first.
Okay, so
Just to see
the
what
high poly
happens.
one?
Uh-huh.
I think this is the high poly one. Yeah, because we haven't touched this one. So let's look at this one. So let's just set that
Let's
as
just try
the
it.
thing.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
It could just give us a console thing that says,
Too many...
what the hell is this bind skeleton bullshit?
I don't know, what is it? Something have a skeleton to it? Does that have an animation inside of it? It does. You can just remove the animator.
I don't know if that will solve the problem. No, it didn't. Let's see if it's on the floor.
It's probably on anything that you've imported. There's always an animator.
But it usually doesn't give an error like that.
Hmm. Let's keep going through 'em.
Flippers. Alright, let's grab the flippers. Kill the animators.
What else is there?
Cannot find transform object 1. Bind skeleton. Cannot find transform object 1. Like all these have an object 1 naturally, so that doesn't really... These have anything special.
I have no idea.
Those are all the things we added, right? The fancy flipper left, right, and
The game board.
yeah. All right, so let's look at these just in case. Let's go into the flipper collider. Let's grab all of these actually, and go to animations and just make sure that's off. Hit apply. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Didn't help.
It's the first thing it says. Mechanism.
We're not using Mechanism for anything. Why is it doing things? Yeah, do a search for me, thanks. Alright, in the meantime, I'm going to just ignore that and see if we can get this thing working. So we have the ball. It launches, yay. This might actually even work. Alright, so let's just look at the game and play it. So we launch, it curves around very nicely, it hits the walls. Looks a little bit more like an arena. Still really sparse on the textures. Still not going to look like a really great game because I'm not an artist. But actually, we have enough room for outlanes now if we wanted to set that up. Oh, we have one problem here. So when the ball drains now, where does it drain to?
Nowhere.
Right there. So we're going to want to change the way that we handle the ball destruction. Let's do that real quick. So I'm just going to do what in Unreal Tournament and most first-person shooters would call a kill box. I'm going to create a C# script. We're going to call this kill box.
Oh, how interesting. So, according to this, it says there's a new rig tab on the top of the inspector.
On the top of which inspector?
I'm assuming of the item.
Rig. Okay, rig.
And it says...
Oh, I see. So
animation type, none.
None. Apply.
Apply it.
Now we hit play.
Now hopefully that should fix your problem.
Yay! Okay, fix the problem. Thank you. Thank you, Phil, and thank
You're
you,
welcome.
the internet.
Yeah, the internet does help.
So, what did you search for to get that? Just Mechanism
bind skeleton cannot find.
Alright, that worked out nicely.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I'm going to have to hook you up so that we can switch to your screens or something at some point in the future. That would be cool.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to just... If you ever run into an error like that, just type in the error.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else has usually had the error, so it's a good way to figure out what's going on with it.
Alright, so this kill box thing, all it's going to do is just kill things that land in it. And in this case, we're only going to care if the thing is a ball. So, I'm going to make it a variable just in case you wanted to use this in another project. So public string tag, although we're going to just default it to ball in this case. And we're going to... So we need some boundaries here, so I'm just going to put a public vector 3. Now we'll just use the we'll use triggering systems. So void on trigger enter collider call if call dot tag equals tag. Actually, we probably shouldn't call this tag. We should call this destroy tag, because I think tag is an internal thing used by... Oops. See, I already changed the wrong one. I didn't want to hide our tag on the object itself. So if it's equal, then we just destroy call.gameObject. And so now we can just create a new game object. We're going to give it a box collider, physics box collider, and we're just going to make the collider big enough to basically take the bottom portion of this thingy. Gonna make it a little bit bigger, so let's make it 20 even here, and let's make it 2 in the Z. We don't want it to be too far up.
Making a kill box.
So now if we call this the kill box, and we throw this script onto it, it should just work. So hopefully when we shoot, oh, did I do something really dumb? No, I didn't. It wasn't that dumb.
If anyone needs a good idea for a metal band, by the way, Killbox.
Killbox.
Yeah. Good band name.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad name at all.
Look at that. That ball's jiggling.
So we're doing the ball, and it didn't do anything. And here's why. Because we set on trigger enter, and we didn't set up the kill box as a trigger. How this will work. If you don't set it up as a trigger, the collider will actually collide with things, and will not get any trigger messages. If you set it up as a trigger, it will not actually collide with things. Things will just pass through it. There we go. It killed the ball. Cool. That's good enough for our purposes right now.
No, it is a kill box.
That's the basic kill box. These are really common in first-person shooters. You put them in areas where characters are supposed to fall to their death, or places where they're not supposed to be. Some of the modern games actually do a 10-second kill box thing on borders where they'll bring
Halo's
up
a good example
where
of
they'll be
that.
like return to battle and start counting down, and then at the end of it you're gone. So for the remainder of this, because I've already run out of my art assets for the episode.
Well, we should, you know what's a good idea? Moving
What?
those 4 things on the top so that you don't hit them right when you let the ball fly.
That's the
Move 'em to the upper left.
skill shot.
Eh,
Fine.
we can make a skill shot.
I'm not making no skill shot.
Does that mean you are making a skill shot?
No,
That was a double negative.
it was, but that's not what it meant.
Fair enough.
All those, and then let's just find the top 4 here. We should probably organize these. Okay, yeah, especially considering they decided to like
Randomize themselves? Yeah.
just collate like that. I don't really get that.
Well, you know.
Let's give us a little rotation too. Just have some fun with it. This works, right? Yeah, it does. One of my favorite games on the Commodore was Pinball Construction Set, which basically was it was like Unity, but it was made just for pinball games back in the good old days, back when there wasn't much for things that you could do with that. So there, now it doesn't automatically hit those ones. It hits the one on the side there, though. Oh well. Ball's doing a little bit of bouncing. All in all, this is not too bad. So let's make our ball metal. Let's start with making that cool. We're going to need an environment map of some kind. I'm going to pilfer stuff from the built-in assets. So I'm going to grab skyboxes here. And I'm just going to import the whole kit and caboodle.
So, you had the Commodore pinball.
Yeah.
I had a virtual pinball for the Genesis.
Awesome.
It was kind of the same style of game.
Yeah, yeah. The Commodore one is so much simpler looking than the Genesis one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just I remember it from when I was a kid, so.
That's super awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool game.
It was a lot of fun.
So, launcher, what is it? So we have that stuff working. Oh yeah, we were making the ball shiny. So I imported skyboxes, which is probably a strange thing to import for shininess, but I'll show you why I did so. So skyboxes have a bunch of different textures for them for each side. So these are actually a cube map, and we're going to want an environment map for the ball, and so that requires a cube map. So I'm just going to make a cube map out of one of these to see how it looks, maybe make it a little grayer, and it might be good enough for our purposes. In the real world, honestly, metallic maps, like just search for metallic cube map and you'll find probably stuff online that will be set up pretty nicely. It doesn't have to look like the environment that it's in, but that sometimes helps. In our case, it would have hurt us because our environment looks so bad. But But if you want it to look really, really good, you would probably put a camera in the middle and generate a cube map. And actually, I think there's a couple of plugins you can get for Unity that actually do that for you. But it's not too hard to set up on your own. So I'm just going to grab a nice... I like this one because it has kind of a grayness to it. So Sunny 3 Skybox. We're going to create a new material. I'm going to go into... We don't have a materials folder, so I'm just going to create material. We're going to call this ball material. And we're going to change this to reflective diffuse. And we need a cube map. So we're going to create a cube map. And we're going to call this Skybox 3 Cube. So for whatever reason, the skyboxes, even though they are cube maps, don't actually take a cube map. And what I mean by this is, if we go into the standard assets and look at the Sunny 3 Skybox, the shader itself actually takes the front, back, left, right. And we actually need a cube map because our shader is, if you go to mold material, it just wants this one thing called a cube map. So we're going to take the textures here and make one. So Skybox 3 Cube, we're going to just select right, and we want Sunny 3 right, left is Sunny 3 left, top is just yada yada yada, top would be up, I guess.
I would think so.
Bottom, I think, is down.
That would be logical.
And then front and back. And now we can go into, what is that? I don't know what the heck that is. I'm not going to worry about that.
And it's gone.
It is gone. Alright, so ball material, inspector, we're throwing this cube map on here. And then we want the main color to be kind of a steely gray. And let's see what it looks like. Do we have a preview of this somewhere? There's the preview. Oh, reflection color. This might be important too. Let's just keep it bright, whatever.
For the moment.
And let's apply this to our ball, which is in prefabs ball. Now if we hit play and hit the ball, yeah, it's too bright, but
you see that
you
now
can see
that
the ball is reflecting the sky. It kind of doesn't give the impression of rotation as well anymore. Not that it really gave any impression of rotation before. My brain filled it in. That's just not dark enough and metal enough looking ball. You know, let's go back to what my first thing that I said. Let's search for cube map metal reflective. And we get Unity results. Is this, and I'm not even signed in. Okay. Evidently no one calls it cube map except Unity now.
That's
Alright, let's just say cube map metal. There we go. That's a fancy one. Images. Anything that looks remotely like a real metallic cube map here. This is getting closer.
Kind of like that metal. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
You could make it with what is it, Neo Texture Editor? Make something just like that.
Yeah, I probably could. They're using, I think, just a skybox on that one too, honestly, and then they're adding a bump layer on that, so that's a bump cube map.
Neato.
What happens when we change this? That just okay. So let's actually make the brightness higher, and then make the reflection color dimmer. And I kind of want to put a texture on it too so that we get some roll on it. Oh wait, that's the ref strength. Okay, that doesn't really help us too much. It might help us a little. Let's put something there. Let's do neo texture, like you said.
Doing it.
Do I not have that on here? We're not doing neo texture. Don't have it installed for whatever reason. Let's see what this looks like.
It happens sometimes.
Well, that's better than nothing, I guess. Yeah, I am just not an artist. Honestly, we should be replacing this with some beautiful picture, and this should be some beautiful artwork too.
Should add another flipper.
You want another flipper?
I always want another flipper.
All right, fine. I'll put another flipper in. Where do you want it?
I don't know.
Do you want a left flipper or a right flipper?
Probably left flipper.
All right, left flipper. We're duplicating a left flipper. Where do you want it?
Up higher.
Do you want it bigger or smaller?
No, same size, just along the wall or something.
Somewhere here?
Yeah, sure.
That'll kind of upset the flow. I'll put it down there.
Well, you know.
Let's give it a shot.
Could try it out. That's the fun part about this stuff, is you can do this.
Yes, you can.
And now you have another flipper. Just like that. Well, bam.
Do love flippers. It flips and everything.
It flips and everything. See, now if you wanted to, you could work on your game flow a little bit more. All bounced a little bit there.
Yeah.
She had a good reason. Wobbly. But, you know, you got a basic pinball setup now.
Yeah. Yeah. When did we actually start this episode?
I have no idea.
Neither do I. I think
What
it
else
was
can we
around
do?
9.
What else can we do with the pinball?
Um,
I mean, there's lots of things you can do.
Is there a good way to give these things texture? No, because we want proper UVs for those things. Honestly, this is I think I'm just gonna call this a wrap up at this point.
Be back next week for the news.
Let's do one last thing. Let's just do one stupid thing here. I'm gonna grab the Cooking with Unity logo because I own that,
Just place it on that field.
and I'm gonna put it on. Yeah, let's just meh.
No, put it on the backboard.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that. That's one of the ones I wanted to do.
It's upside down.
Yeah, well, no, you're upside down. So write it up on this side, so we'll just flip this around.
And no, I'm not upside down. As a matter of fact.
So there, Cooking with Unity, and let's look at the import settings. Format, true color, and make it huge. Apply. Why are we doing this? All right, and then I'm just going to create another really quick cube here. That we're going to set with the black background, and we're just going to create a little space for the scores here.
Oh, nice.
This is actually, like, you could do this in the art itself, and some people would do that, where they actually cut out the spaces for the scores and stuff within the art. You'll notice that looks a little strange because the text is actually inside the box here, but we don't care because the text render's on top of everything anyway.
Yeah.
But the reason that I like doing it in the editor a little bit is just because then if you have to change the position of something later, you don't have to ask your artist to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more appropriate for that to be in the designer's hands. Let's make it a little bit wider and hit play, and so now we have a little bit. No, it's still not right. So Y needs to be bigger and down a little. Just eyeballing it. There we go.
Now you got Cooking with Unity, the pinball machine.
And yeah, let's put it on the bottom board too, just for fun. Even though I think it may not actually even be able to map to that. Let's find out.
Oh. This will be an interesting test.
So let's just change the material on this to Cooking with Unity.
You know, that's
worked out
actually
fine.
very surprising. I did not expect that.
And we can probably change the tiling to -1. There we go. And I don't know what we need to do to actually rotate it. I'm not sure if I'm equipped to do what's needed for that.
No worries, I think it works better.
There we go.
Oh, I like how it's on the flippers, too.
Oh, God, because I put it on the Object 1, that's why. That's horrible looking on the flippers. It's actually horrible looking in general. I'm going to undo that.
Aw. I liked it.
All right. Well, there's some basic pinball setup for you. Thank you for joining us. Email me if you have any questions at pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Drakfire. And you should buy Phil's game Proton Pulse. So, wait, Phil's game Automation.
Yeah, if
Okay,
you
that's
want
confusing.
to, you can email me. You can email me at philip@protosoftworks.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's at magmalemur. You could say, hey, dude, stop coughing and sneezing and all that stuff because I just got over a cold last weekend.
You sound fine, though, honestly. I didn't hear any coughing during the show.
Well, I did.
Okay.
Because I was the one who was doing it.
Okay, fair enough.
And you should buy Proton Pulse. Buy Proton Pulse. It's on the iOS, it's on Mac, it's on Windows,
It's all over
Android.
the place.
You
It's
should
going to be on
just buy
Ouya
it.
soon, too. That's what I'm doing this week. We're going to launch on Ouya on the 28th. All things go well, at least.
Buy it.
Yep.
What are you waiting for? Buy it.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Yes.
Have a good time.
Have a fantabulous week.